Thank you very much, Jane, for sharing your story. It's funny when we hear other stories, I don't know if you all do this or not, but you kind of start seeing that person through your own eyes and you think about your stories. And I was hearing Jane's story and I was thinking about my own experiences through her. And it's amazing how many images and thoughts came up that I hadn't thought about in years. And then sitting here and kind of like cleansing it during a meditation now, feeling very grounded. So thank you very much for the inspiration. And we're going to be going from one extreme now to another. The next guest, how do I describe her well? I would say, as I got to meet Peggy and talk to her, I felt like I was meeting Martha Stewart on like 3 Red Bulls. Like, wow, the energy that you brought in for the second you showed up today, amazing. And we're just, as I'm hearing each of the authors and getting to know everybody, we are just so different personalities. We've come from so many different walks of life and have different stories to share. And you can go from one story to another, and we're all in the same section, but yet we're in our own universe, so to speak. I remember as Kazra was talking about that, and our own little bubbles, and now we formed one new bubble together. So, Big, I gotta tell you, when I walked in today, I was excited but nervous, had so many thoughts in my head, and you just took me to another level. So I'm really excited to hear, and as we all are, about your story in your book. It's called The Microdose Diet. I'm going to butcher your last name, Peggy van de Plassche.
Yeah, that's great.
I was even a Plassche. There's no accent aigu or anything. So she spent also 20 years as an executive, venture capitalist, entrepreneur in financial services and tech before discovering the transformative power of psilocybin. She developed the Brain Power Microdose and the 90-day microdose diet. I know, I get emails almost on a daily basis and so informative, and you got to get on her newsletter. There's so many newsletters through these authors, and every day you get in your email box and you see something different. And it's almost like a form of Tony Robbins energy, but in a different genre, so to speak. You are enhancing personal and professional success, focused on psychedelic powered development. You are offering, Peggy, a 12-week transformation program, combining microdosing with therapies like tapping meditation and journaling. So you're seeing the connections here, right? Her book, More, in capitals, The Microdose Diet, and her online courses have rave reviews. Peggy, you're so active on social media, you're sharing so much information. Couldn't wait to meet you. I'm already uplifted, and now that we're all calmed down, now you're going to bring us up again. So, everybody, Peggy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I also need a mic when I speak. So, Martha Stewart, that's funny. My husband is here. I don't think he believes I'm Martha Stewart at all, but it's a funny comparison. So, my background, similar to you, Jane, was finance, corporate executive, all that great stuff. And one thing I didn't realize through that journey is that I actually had a lot of mental health issue, namely anxiety, stress, depression. And for many people, it comes with the territory. People are like, well, you're in finance, you're a venture capitalist, you're stressed, it's normal. But I think it happened to me when I was a kid. So for me, my baseline was extremely anxious by nature, or by nurture probably actually. And during the pandemic, it really became extremely problematic. And I've had challenges in the past, but I was not very keen on the traditional way to deal with this type of problem, which was whether therapy, which I tried multiple times, or prescribed drugs, which is more, from my perspective, managing symptoms. And life has a way to send you the answer when you're looking for it. And my intuition maybe brought me to psychedelics. And at the time, I was still in finance, so I was reading a lot of publications like, The Economist, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, blah, blah, blah. And over the course of 2 weeks, there were, I don't know how many articles written about psychedelics in these publications that I trusted. So I was like, oh, maybe there is something for me. And I'm from the old school of mind that all psychedelics are drugs, they're bad, you're going to be high, you're going to hallucinate, and all that great stuff, the pink elephants. And once I read in Woman's magazine about moms microdosing mushrooms. I'm like, oh my God, if mom microdose mushrooms, that means it's safe, if a mom does that. And so I did a lot of research, like read clinical studies, whatever, which honestly, you don't need to be a student of biology to understand. There is a conclusion at the top, so like you can easily make your own assumptions. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna try it, and it's quite easy in Toronto to actually find mushrooms. And my husband, I actually bought some mushrooms at our massage therapist a few months before. So I'm like, oh well, let's try it, and I really saw a massive difference in my mental health. And who is familiar here with psychedelics? Okay. Who is familiar with microdosing psychedelics? Okay. So the difference between microdosing and macrodosing, well, as the name says it all, is you're taking very, very small dose. So when we speak usually about psychedelics, we have in mind this very big trip for 6-8 hours. You're going to hallucinate, you might have visions, you're going to have all this great stuff. And this is definitely a part of psychedelics. Microdosing has nothing to do with that. The only thing that's in common is the fact that you're using the same substance, the mushrooms. But you're taking extremely small dose, 100 milligrams. While if you're doing a trip, you're taking 3 to 5 grams, so very different. And you actually have no physical, you're not feeling high, you have no hallucination. But what you're having is your nervous system is definitely calming down. But also your brain, leverage this ability to rewire itself, neuroplasticities. I'm sure you've heard about it. And so what I did was, I've been a student, like most of you, I'm sure, of personal transformation for like 15 years. And I used a lot of the tools that I learned, visualization, tapping, journaling, and I combined them with my microdosing practice. And basically that book is the book I wished I had like 20 years ago. I really wanted a guide that was a bit your second book, which is how to, and I built it as a 90-day, practice where you can really go from A to B, going from, who you are and hopefully the next version of yourself, and you kind of rinse, repeat as much as you want over your life. And it's really about how can you remove the blocks, the limiting belief. But I use microdosing and other practices to do that because I find psychedelics really go deeper faster and it augments your practice. So I don't think psychedelics is a silver bullet. That's absolutely not what I'm saying, but it is a great tool in the toolkit and it can really augment what you're doing. And so this is my own recipe. This is what I really like, but you can do microdosing psychedelic with yoga, your practice, with what you're going to write with your second book, with, some people do coaching, therapy. And that was really in order to demystify what microdosing is. So I'm probably the only one here who didn't self-publish, but it was still very painful. So if you want to talk as well about the process of working with a publisher or an agent, I'll be more than happy to share my thoughts. I have a podcast as well, so I'm on social media, as you mentioned, so you can always follow me. I also develop my own microdosing product. And any questions you might have, don't hesitate. And again, half the book, or 2/3 is on explaining psychedelics, and the rest is really on giving you the turnkey guide in order to go from point A to point B. So here we go. Was it still Martha Stewart with 3 Red Bulls, or a bit 2 Red Bulls after the meditation?
Martha Stewart on psychedelics.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. That must be interesting. Thank you very much.